We got a new boxing movie coming out this month called Christy, which is based on a true story, starring Sydney Sweeney, and we're going to review it right now. Let's go. Christy stars Sydney Sweeney, Ben Foster, and is directed by David Michôd.
I spent half my life hiding. That's my house. My things.
What's up, guys? Welcome to a brand new 2025 review. We're going to review Christy, the new sports biopic about Christy Martin. I had heard something about Christy Martin years and years ago. I didn't know, ultimately what happened to her, which is, of course, it's a big event. Let's just say that, and it does happen at the end of this movie. It's a pivotal event. I didn't remember that at all. Maybe I was never even told that. I don't know. I think she was just kind of a blip in my span, my radar. I don't know. But I remember something about her. And if you watch the movie, if you see the trailer for this movie, you'll see that she's almost like the female Mike Tyson. You know, she had a really, really strong punch, which they established at the beginning. I don't know how true it is, but at the beginning of this movie, it's like she doesn't have any experience in boxing whatsoever. And she actually goes against this person that is a seasoned type boxer, and she freaking knocks him out, pretty quickly. If not one punch, pretty quickly. And that was an exciting moment. Also, I hope to God I'm in focus. Okay, I did manual focus because my autofocus on my camera, for some reason, it always shifts the focus away from my face. And I constantly have to grab it and pull it back up. So now I'm trying manual focus, and we'll see how that works. Okay, I didn't mean to waste your time with that, but yeah. But first off, let's give you a quick plot synopsis, even though I kind of gave you a plot synopsis because it's a sports biopic. You already know it's about Christy Martin, the boxer. This takes place in the 80s, and it spans a good portion of her life from when she starts off as a boxer, the relationship issues that she had with her manager, played by Ben Foster, who is unrecognizable in this movie, and then goes all the way to, I believe, the mid-2000s. I had a chance to go see a screening of this, and I believe the real Christy Martin was at that screening. I hate that I didn't get to go because there was like a Q&A with her. But I guess let's start off with the elephant in the room, Sydney Sweeney. She's unrecognizable in this movie. I think her acting performance here is quite admirable. I think my biggest problem with her, and I guess I'm going to kind of bounce back and forth with pros and cons in this review, because Sydney Sweeney is such, she's the main part of this movie. So I think it's kind of important to address her first, because everything rides on her shoulders in this. If she fails, then the movie fails, right? I don't think the movie fails, but when you compare this to other sports biopics, oftentimes the lead actor, they give themselves over to the role, almost to an unhealthy amount. And you can compare this to, say, Jake Gyllenhaal in Southpaw. Even though that wasn't a biopic, that was based on a fictional character. What I mean is giving themselves over to the sport. That's where I had a problem with this movie is I buy her as the character and I buy her as an actor, but physically, it doesn't really register that well. I think she does a passable job, but you can tell when someone has had weeks and weeks of boxing training. They just have a certain rhythm, and she just didn't have that in this movie. And to be fair, does Stallone have the moves as an actual boxer in the Rocky movies? No, especially if you watch actual boxing compared to watching the Rocky movies. Yeah, if boxers really punched each other in the face like Rocky does, then they'd be the fight would probably be over in a couple rounds. Stallone really knows how to ramp up the action, and the excitement. Almost creating a story within the actual fight, right? For example, when he's fighting, say, Apollo Creed at the end of the first movie. That part right there feels like its own little story. With the first round leading all the way to the last round, right? You feel like you're there. You don't really get any of that in this. You just get glimpses of her fights. And there's not really too many fights that last really long, on screen. It's more about her life story than anything. And of course, boxing is a big part of that. And I think that's where this movie does kind of help itself, is with the actual drama. That's where the movie succeeds, I think. And she's got major help from Ben Foster, who I think is one of the most unsung freaking actors of his generation. I think Ben Foster is a chameleon. He constantly tries to take roles that push his boundaries and test his talents. And I think he does a great job with that. I think he kind of saves this movie. I appreciate that Sydney Sweeney is trying to get roles like this that stretch her acting talents. I appreciate that. She's not trying to do the same cookie cutter type roles. So I respected that about this movie. And I think the best biopics make you want to go and research the real person. And I did. Right after that, I wanted to know more about Christy Martin. And since we're talking about Ben Foster, let's talk about his character, Jim Martin. He is the guy that really gave Christy her big break. He was recommended by another guy to train her, which he does, but he is just a real son of a bitch. He's an asshole. And this movie, without spoiling too much, really is about an abusive relationship. And really, I guess, how far that relationship can go. And oftentimes you have women in these types of relationships, and it's hard to find your way out of that. And some of that is definitely explored in this movie. Also, Christy Martin, she was gay. She had a relationship with a woman before she met Jim. And I think when you are gay, it's not something that you can just turn off. And so that element is still always there throughout her marriage. But then Jim is just a very controlling type of character, and ultimately a really abusive type of character. So there's a lot of emotional highs and lows in this movie. I think it's paced very, very well. And I was quite entertained and surprised by how Christy Martin's life unfolded in the last act of the movie. You know, it's one of those sit up in your chair moments, like once you enter the third act of this, because you think this movie is going to be one thing, but then it turns into something more dark and sinister, which I appreciated about the movie. And it's the real life story. And I do think that last act really saves the movie. There is a survival type element to the movie that you can't help but cheer on. It's really sad at times as well. So I don't think Sydney Sweeney's like bad in the movie, like horrible in the movie, but this ain't like Charlize Theron in Monster, okay? And oftentimes, if I really had to poke at it, some of those SNL skits where they have the get up, and it looks like they just threw on the outfit. Sometimes the wig that Sydney Sweeney is wearing in this movie, it looks like it was grabbed off of the back set of an SNL skit, It almost looks kind of silly. But overall, guys, I had a decent time with Christy. I'll give it a straight up humdrum. And check out my other review called Christy from when I first started my channel about 10 years ago, which is a completely different movie. Christy with a K. This movie comes out November 7th in theaters. When you see it, let me know what you guys think of it in the comments. Also, subscribe to the second channel, Drumdums Xtra, where you'll see a variety of content, my clips, sometimes just spontaneous thoughts. I'll post it over there. Be sure to come over to Killer Flicks, where we talk horror all day and every day. And on Fridays, if you follow Fridays, follow me Drumdums on my social support me on Patreon. Become a channel member. Buy me a coffee. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a good day. And Drumdum out. I said that way too fast. Gave myself a headache.